name is Reagan Box, and welcome to Reagan's World. Today is January 28th, 2023. Today I want to talk about taxation without representation. Our founding fathers went to war in the American Revolution because they said they were being taxed without representation. I read somewhere about 10 years ago that they were having to work 1 week a year to pay taxes. And they went to war for that. Today we have to work nearly half a year to pay all of our taxes. And our politicians aren't even representing us. In our bills and laws, they keep passing all this stuff that doesn't even relate to anything us Americans want and just wasting our taxpayer money. So today I'm going to talk to you about some of the things our government is spending money on. $3 million has been granted to researchers at the University of California at Irvine to play video games so that they can study emerging forms of communication, including multiplayer computer games and virtual online worlds such as Worldcraft and Second Life. $700,000 on gas emissions from dairy cows. $615,000 to the University of California at Santa Cruz to digitize photos, t-shirts, and concert tickets belonging to the Grateful Dead. $239,000 to Stanford University on Americans and Internet dating. $216,000 to the National Science Foundation to study whether or not politicians gain or lose support by taking ambiguous positions. $442,340 to the National Institute of Health to study behavior of male prostitutes in Vietnam. $1 million to create poetry to raise awareness for environmental issues. $175 million to the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs in 2010 to maintain hundreds of buildings that aren't even in use. $1.8 million for a neon sign museum in Las Vegas. $35 million paid out by Medicare to 118 phantom medical clinics that don't even exist. $150,000 for critter crossings in Vermont. $440,000 for green energy upgrades for a building that hasn't even been used in a decade. $440,955 for office upgrades for a former Speaker of the House, Dennis Hastert. $5,000 to a Tennessee library for a video game party. $2.5 million on a Super Bowl commercial for the U.S. Census Bureau. $137,530 to Dartmouth College to create a recession-themed video game. $600,000 to the National Science Foundation to develop an online video game called Wolf Quest. $60,000 to a pizzeria to renovate and give it a more inviting look and feel. $30,000 to farmers to develop a tourist-friendly database of farms that host overnight haycations. $800,000 to the National Institutes of Health for stimulus funds to study the impact of genital washing programs in South Africa. The military has spent $15 million in the last 5 years to do psychotherapy and surgeries for transgender troops. $3 million has been spent by the National Institutes of Health watching steroid-injected hamsters fight. Hamster fighting. $3 million of our taxpayer money. And $1.1 million has been spent by the National Institute of Health getting mice drunk on moonshine and seeing what happens. This is just a very small amount of our government spending. Could you imagine how much lower our taxes would be if we just got rid of all these stupid programs like that. I mean, who really benefits from this? Who? Nobody. And this is where our tax dollars are going. I promise you, life can be better than this. Could you imagine what we could do with our families if we didn't care how some South African man washed his genitalia? I'm going to end on that. And I'm just going to say, be the change you want to see.
You and I have lived too long with this miracle to properly be appreciative. Freedom is a fragile thing, and it's never more than one generation away from extinction. It is not ours by way of inheritance. It must be fought for and defended constantly by each generation, for it comes only once to a people. And those in world history who have known freedom and then lost it have never known it again. Knowing this, it's hard to explain those among us who even today would question the people's capacity for self-government. I've often wondered if they will answer, those who subscribe to that philosophy, if no one among us is capable of governing himself, then who among us has the capacity to govern someone else? Using the temporary authority granted by the people in increasing number lately, at all levels of government, have sought control even of the means of production, as if they could do this without eventually controlling those who produce. And always they explain this as necessary to the people's welfare. The deterioration of every government begins with the decay of the principle upon which it was founded. This was written in 1748, and it's as true today as it was then. Government is the people's business, and every man, woman, and child becomes a shareholder with the first penny of tax paid.